Hello, we're here with Gilbert Emmanuel Jones for the Veterans History Project collection for Mr. Jones's service in World War II. His full name is Gilbert Emmanuel Jones. He was born March 28, 1922. He served in the Army as sergeant. He served from February 1943 to December 1945 in the U.S. and in northern France. I am Alicea Jones, Gilbert's daughter-in-law, and I have the pleasure of interviewing Gil today about his service during World War II. Gil, to start out with, can you give us an idea of what it was like before you went into the Army? Tell us about your parents and your siblings.
Well, I'm named after my father, who was also Gilbert, and my mother, Lou Alma Jones. And I was born in Detroit, Michigan. I have 4 brothers and 4 sisters.
Okay, great. Can you give us your siblings' names?
Well, Lester, my twin sisters, Barbara and Ann, my sister Alice, and Rose, and my brother trying to think of, it's so sudden here, I'm trying to get together. Robert. Okay.
Very good. What were you doing before you entered the service?
I was employed by Alco Aluminum in Detroit, Michigan, and I wanted to get to a higher paying job, but we were frozen in our capacities where we were due to the war. And that's about my work history. I had different jobs after I came out of service, of course, but that's what I was doing when I was inducted into the Army.
Okay, good. How was it that you entered the service? I think you said you were inducted, you were drafted. What was it like departing for training camp? And what was it like during the early days of training camp?
Well, when I went into the service, I really wasn't eligible to go because I had a daughter and I had a son on the way. But all of my friends were going, and I didn't want to be left behind, so I allowed myself to be conscripted. And that's about the size of it, unless you want to know where I went after.
Oh, no, okay, that's good for now. We'll get to the rest. What was it like adapting to military life? What was your physical regimen like? What was the barracks like? Your social life, the food?
Well, it was very interesting and different because the regimentation I adapted to because I was used to taking orders, and it wasn't too big a departure from what I was used to. But during wartime things were a lot more different than they were in peacetime because things were almost written in stone for your behavior and your acclimation to different places and responsibilities. And so it was no real departure from what I had been used to.
What about friendships during your time in the Army?
Well, due to the close proximity that you have, your social life.
Would you talk a little bit about what it was like in the Army in terms of segregation?
Well, we didn't know what to find when we came south, because the last time I was in the South at all, I was about 3 or 4 years old. During the interim, I had read a lot of newspapers about what the treatment was for blacks in the South, and I was very much apprehensive about going there. After we left Fort Francis Warren in Wyoming, on a troop train, we came all the way down through to Louisiana. We got to Camp Plauché in New Orleans, and that's where I elected to stay after our orientation rather than take chances of the social aspects in the city proper. Until one day one of the fellows that was from New Orleans said, "Come on, Gil, we'll go. I'll show you where to go, where it's safe." Very reluctantly, I decided to go. But we had a wonderful time. We met some nice people. The hospitality was great. It was nothing like I expected. And we had a nice time, and I look forward to going to the city thereafter. But on the base, I was surprised to see that segregation had been perpetuated by the military, by the separate facilities on the base for colored and white. I said, "Whoa, this is the kind of country I'm going overseas for? They still got this southern mentality?" And some of the other fellows were, northern fellows rather, were as equally surprised. But after we saw the 795th Tank Battalion come through with sidearms and firepower as equal to any we saw on base, we knew temporarily at least that we were safe and in good hands. But things resumed after they had left in a cloud of dust on the way overseas.
What about your barracks and eating facilities? Were those separate as well?
Well, no. We were mostly blacks anyway, so there was not any segregation there whatsoever. But in spite of some of the complaints that I've heard then and after, I thought the food was very good, very nicely prepared. I suppose because we had some Louisiana cooks, which I became very familiar and friendly with. So the food was very good, I thought. And I enjoyed going to the mess hall, not only to eat the food, but have companionship with those that are on duty at the time. In fact, later on, I became so friendly with the chief cook that he wanted me to be his best man that when we got discharged. And so, in all of the commotion of going and coming and discharge and whatever, I never got around to it and lost track of him altogether. Many years later, I tried to locate him, but in Lake Charles, Louisiana, there were so many with that same name that I couldn't find him or anything. Maybe he had passed away or moved to a different part of Louisiana or somewhere else. Like me, I came from Michigan to Wisconsin to Texas, so it's kind of hard to keep up with guys that have traveled around after the service.
Yes, yes. Okay. What about the Tuskegee Airmen? Did you come in contact with them? What did you know about them during the time?
I didn't come in contact with them, but like the Black Tank Battalion, the Tuskegee Airmen, when it came to our attention, were very inspirational, showing that we could do what anybody else could do if we were just given